This one.
Not this
Oh, yeah. That's somebody, Ningji Membe, Nimi Sigdwa, Ningji, Chungtana, Nikkei Sigdwa, Diridwa. Gangshi Nyemba Shandala Sigdwa, Gangshi Nyemba Shandala, Tungegi, Gyudan Nyembe, Narwe, Simje Shandala Sigora. Ningzi Lekshe Mendubas, Shangitini, Chambatanchi, Pendo Shebadelia, Yabures, Menduba. Menduna Sigora. Teje Seven Guemeba, Dala Chiter Chimbatons. Oh, Tezulia, Nyamtaba Tezula, Ningji Chebate, Leba Yeshe Menduna, Guemeba, Nyamda Shandalia, and Zavala Soba, Chimbaton ala Soba, and the young Mares and Gudwa.
Well, so if you look on the outline on page 313, we're on the third section here under the actual mode of training and the deeds, and the topic here is faults of deficient compassion. It's verse 115. So to read the actual stanza on page 141, how can one, unwilling to say that compassion for the oppressed is good, later, out of compassion, give to the protectorless? So here it is. How can one who's thinking that compassion for somebody who's really suffering out of the three sufferings of suffering, that's such compassion that is, if they're unwilling to say that that's good, then later when they need to have compassion for those who are really helpless, then how can they get it? Lois.
Oh, yeah, that's the Le Dambobe Chanju Simba Kangshi Sigdwa, Chanju Sen Kini, Kemata, Shida Changba Machin Betu Songiora, and Tunge Judan Chebe Nyembe Simje Shandalas, Tungegi Q, Numo Kondunga Yellows over not the young Genghis Giorda. Hone Nyembe Simje Shandalia, Tado be Ning Zawa Chebase, Tezula Ningji Chebatelia, and this was a Tado Wangia. Oh, Yakure some Lekbari Yakure some Mesam Gengi Mesam Bechanju Sambatazula Sungiora. And Lekshe Menduba, De Chesu Seve, Simjan Guemeba Shandala, Lulonja Keza, Chidar, Chimbaton Ajimejdo. Or take a Simjan Shandala Yatene, Sevakon and Guemeba, Nyamtawa, that not a young Sajitun Jumenge, Simjebe Chokangane. Kale Yudenge Simje Tezulia, and a Sevecone, Jimbaton ala Sobada, or Tindretini Tele Pendochibati, Yotugimare Sungdwa.
So if we read the commentary, if out of jealousy a bodhisattva who is a beginner, we're talking somebody who just enters the bodhisattva path and their spirit of enlightenment is not very strong. So if such a beginner then is unwilling to admit that it is good to act compassionately toward other sentient beings who are oppressed by suffering and its causes, that means like the obvious suffering or evident suffering, and its causes would be pride and jealousy and so forth. How could that bodhisattva later, out of compassion, give protectorless beings his or her body, possessions, and root virtues? So here, protectorless beings is referring to those who are really and just have many different kinds of sufferings, and they're basically helpless, and so then how could such a bodhisattva then give away his or her body, possessions and root virtues to such beings.
Oh, that is better. But now, say, long as they talk about Sidwa, some get into service in us. Then I need to give a bever shows. When a long alley, me long yamta to Zulico, and it jallar in the Tobayina. A question Dalia, and Zawachia, delicate Zawachia, the young man was a vera. When you're some get into service and some going to the choir, Tabjajik and Dale Coco do some Segi, Shanda Norjala Toya Tundalco, so maybe Shanda Superchiba Lele Jubade, Shemagu was. Tena, Niji Top Jabala Beverjatis on the Niji Tambukin, Shamatia Shu Chertanjabe, Niji Topia Kayat and Dalan Beverchavores.
The example here is it says like stealing a blind man's things or killing for a pair of boots. The example is if somebody is willing to steal things from a blind man, then what need they're mentioned that such a person would be willing to steal from anybody else, any wealthy man and so forth. So then, and then killing for a pair of boots. If such a person is willing to kill for a pair of boots, then what need mention that if they had the opportunity to steal a lot of wealth, that they would be killing as well. So then thus the injunction here is then, thus one should endeavor to increase the strength of one's compassion. Once you've generated compassion, you have to strive to increase its strength.
Oh yeah.
That did. Because Chujukala, and it did. Chikchela.
That long I did this one.
Shiba.
Shiba did that. Shiba Chanju Sembala, Madebe Nimida, Deba Comriba said the Redwa. Shiba Chanju Sembala, Madebe Nimida, Deba Comriba said, oh, you go. You get Sumba Chebala Lupsulanga, Shora. Oh, Tina, the Shiba de Rediora. Chanju Sembala, Madebe Nimida, Deba Comriba, Cheba Tarchim Banzes Donga. Oh, this is Shagora.
So now in the outline on page 313 is changing. That we have the actual mode of training and the deeds, and there are 5 topics under that, and now we're on the 4th topic. The 4th topic is faults of not appreciating bodhisattvas and suitability of cultivating appreciation. Here the word for appreciation is sometimes translated as faith or confidence in the bodhisattva.
Oh yeah, that's Shiba. Chanju Sembala Madeb Nyebada, Deba Comriba, the Lenire Shagdoya. Chanju Sembala Madebe Nimida, Deba Comriba was a Kagaka Shagdoa. That on which Chanju Sembala Madebe Nimida. Chanju Sembalia, Madeba Chenani, never Shambuyunguri, Tibachambuyunguri, Shagdoa.
So then this will be divided into 2 sections where you have the faults of not having faith or confidence in the bodhisattvas or appreciation of the bodhisattvas, and the suitability of cultivating this faith or confidence or appreciation.
Chanju Semba. Ningji Shawandu Kurba Tedala Sigra, Chanju Semba, and the Semja Dunga Tenduji Shawandu Kurne, Titundalian Besu Shingengi. Oh, Chanju Semba Tedala, ya. Now in Yemichi Dabushinase, and the conduit of the Cheshako Tambuchene, Tindishene Kyokaryursena. Dola Panger Kangshilan Jigden Sidu Neubas. Oh, Tela Sorne da Puna, Dangla Samda Chishus. Doa Simjandia Tunga Traversido. And Ningji Shawan de Kurne. Tedabu Chanju Semba Kangshi last year, no? Jigden si do ne yo bas, jigden do be simje do nge de te da te wa to be chedo. Te shawan do kyune ne yo be chanju semba te da la se ora. Te la sol ne da phung na se. Te li an drawa ma je be che te chanju semba te lab jal ne chu shu. Yana lab jal ne tende de wa chen rang le pendo ma ne be che ta ga se che dan drawa ma je che tenge te su le rang le kyon yong go phung yo re se go ra. Ani chanju semba le da wa chen ge te su la da. Ani tikwa chembo yo de samba thakba ne ko dawa chenge te su le ani tikwa chembo yo de ma go ga re song do.
So on page 141, if we read the question here for verse 116, it says, what are the faults of hating a bodhisattva who is governed by compassion? Here, hating or getting angry at or being hostile towards or something like that. So when those beings suffer loss who are indifferent toward one who stays in the world to help transmigrators, what doubt about those who are hostile? So if it's an ill deed or a negativity for somebody who is indifferent about one who stays in the world to help transmigrators, we're talking about a bodhisattva who's governed by compassion. So then, if you suffer an ill deed for that, then what need we say how serious or grave the ill deed would be for somebody who's hostile to such a bodhisattva. And the idea of indifferent here is just not making a connection, just sort of, and not really caring about this bodhisattva.
No, yeah, don't develop you. Simjenje kam maluba pungul hama mebe nyangelen debe tardu bar debe samba chenje dola pembe chirdo kangshi la se changju sembal sigora. Simjenje tamje ne pungul hama mebe Thabkhe nyande hama nyande seora. Koye pungul hama mebe nyangelen debaliya goban dengenge ning thakbane be telung goban dengenge changju semba dola pembar komba te da la sigora kangshi la sigora. Tardu bandebe samba chenje dola pembe chirdo kangshi la. Jiden chisidu shendendo nebe tuyoba de la se deba da kurdi so maje bar o jigden be chisi be kwa matong ba do shen simjeng ten chen shu dong genge shendendo nebe tuyonge nyoba yonge shenji ten tumge chanju semba tezu la sigora ne deba da kurdi so maje bar tela deba che ane tele ningu shabji shu tinte maje bar 손에 다장 풍나 콘드라 마제베체 땡게도 코란레 풍그레스고라 텔레 대단 저와치기네 텔랍제 망불로 버레 송구데 데네랑기 첸데다 치마 강가 펜바 용고라 저와 마제 코란레 경망부라 그래스고라 텔라야 셰다와라 테네 텔레라바 텔레 콘드로제네 당와징게 텔라 로 셰다와 텍바 삼다 지시여서 어떨 때가 가서 연구해서나데 삼지 메차가 때가 망부사가 사신지라 어제 사과데네 rabdu시와 넘버게 맞춘주진도다 베베 톱제발라 주바 차겐돌레 송바다 년주 동에 자잘학바 녜바라 풍번 교로서네 년주 베교와 망불랑고 랑리야테네 풍번 망부 연구해서로와 교 망부 연구해서
So if we read the commentary here, it is a great loss for those who, through indifference, just not caring or not wanting to make a connection, do not appreciate, means do not have faith in, and render service means to show respect and literally to do what you can to help. Okay, to one who is motivated by the wish for all sentient beings, without exception, to attain the final state of nirvana in which the aggregates do not remain. So then, this is the kind of bodhisattva we're talking. The motivation of the kind of bodhisattva we're talking about is to establish all beings in such a state, and who, to help transmigrators, has the power to stay in worldly existence while it lasts for others' benefit. So this is very. This expresses what kind of bodhisattva we're talking about, a very dedicated bodhisattva. This being so, what doubt can there be that hostility toward that one is an ill deed? There's no doubt about it, and it's an extremely great ill deed. The miraculous feat of ascertainment thorough pacification sutra, and the seal of engagement in augmenting the strength of faith sutra. These both say that one will definitely experience the misfortune of suffering in unfortunate or bad rebirths more than 100 times. So these sutras state that well, if you want to call it a sin or an ill deed or a negativity, that will have a result like that.
This one. That better. Oh, then it. Boa majeve tenge to Quran Kyongchimbura Gres. Dawa jenge tele de ko ke sheme gore sero. Jidan chanju symbol ko trena. Keji chelia tene karse. Kanji kesen namla choga chinde chimju kya sabo keji kins. Keba mangbu sa shebe tiba. Kewa zo ju yesoro. Chanju symbol kare ko chanju symbol de semje tamje. Rusu machiba semje keba meba. Semje yimba samji tele kange chine tisayage. 가서리 chetu tsangenge 문제 상황도 결과실에 되어라. 심지어 겨워매봐. 컨디션에 동에대 트렌드 컨디션에 대화 트렌드선 뒤던달 랑을 룡아 예수 강가 르탄제 뒤던달 배주치기와라. 어딜고 내바시데 콘두세시데 아니고 유코라 겨망불에 펜바충 같은 데서다 랑 띠바체 용거라. 이게 띠바용에 되더라.
Because the reason this is an unusual ill deed or misdeed is because this bodhisattva, with such a compassion, is makes no difference between all beings, and is totally focused on their well-being, to free them from their suffering completely, and so then he has such a broad outlook. Then because this bodhisattva, because it's specified that it's this kind of a bodhisattva, then to have some kind of a to be hostile towards that kind of bodhisattva, or to harm that kind of bodhisattva, then the result of that is so great.
지단코 콘두데 이번에 도시에 소라와 콘두타비 때문에 서바다 가도 매존에시 어디인데 공가서 심지어 컨테이너 콘두 마이에 탑시시 계신부라 자주 선바인다 가리트바인다 자주 던도다 미나레코 구바다 베스는데 담에다 요라 영아지 콘두시 지에서디 자주 선바시 케베이나 되고 마부사도 요라 태야요가 매동신도 수도 텔라요샤네 홀 매요지 치료를 싹갑샤 연애 하고 말와. 바다도 사치버리에서 전한도네 소소마 매요서나 마사에 냐가요라. 장주 선바세데 가와요 가와메 투바세 가와요 가와메 하고요 말이세라. 그래서 섭소치고를 수이나 콘도 마세야 된들 정도라.
So this is why it's so important to practice patience. As we've been describing, the bodhisattvas, you don't really know who the bodhisattvas are going to manifest as, right? So then there could be like a very stupid kind of person or whatever. So so you have to be very careful to always be patient towards anyone, because you might be getting angry at somebody or in being hostile or harmful towards somebody who's really a bodhisattva. It's just like the example is that bodhisattvas are not obvious to us, okay? So that it's like so this kind of a interaction with such bodhisattvas is like a hidden fire, okay? I don't know, something under the ground, you know. I don't know where this ash is. Actually, I think when I was a child I got in trouble with this one. Then you step in there and you end up in being in a fire, right? So that's the idea. So then so you have to be, so the injunction is really that that patience is so important.
Namyo Kondo Chiyama Saba Pen Chamber Kondo Sayamar Jesus Nyan the Gansuchiara. Then Miji Kondo to Tamande Yundo Dene, to Jijin Panamza Kondo Sajagdo. That did you conserve at Kuyara. Or Takuya Meta, the Kondo Line Yagado, some substitute. I'm going to substitute what I Kondo Messachi, some Karamokalam Nasam. Oh, Tima Jay, the budget in the Chig Lobson, Namsa Kondo Sashana. Saba Pento Maso, Kondo Nimida, Saba Congress and the Pendo Masura. What he did Nazu Tumjiva, Lamata, Colomani, the Sobe Coloco, Chushajan, Lomati, Saba Combiora, Kondo Nimida, Sabasco. Kuma lesson, Kuma lesson. Kuma left the sanity, Chanako Kumalo, Lomati Viala, Costusim, Nidatara, Janico Best, Kumadi Yatas Dora. Lamago, Damajita, Soba, Yeshe, the Yeshe, and Kuma Vera. Lama, Dacura, Sobaki, Pema, so Asikina, Shovas in Pema, so they could cheese all Tangajima, so sorry. Then the Cocondo says, decided, Yada, Kangasara. It was Soba, Condo Nimida, Soba, she pay share the Pema, so called Pema daughters, Yara. Kondo Yombe Cap de Leo, that didn't say, oh, that didn't answer a community, didn't come go as a Tidi Comgora. Naze Namju Kondo say, any chicken answer Charlie Jackdaw.
So we have to understand what it is that gets us angry. Okay, we have to, and then be very, what do you say, careful when we see such causes for our anger assembling, so that we can then be patient with that circumstance when it arises. Otherwise, it's not helpful once you get angry under those circumstances and lose your temper. Then you've already lost your patience. So there's a story that illustrates that of a disciple staying with his teacher, and his teacher's giving him instructions on how to be patient and the benefits of patience and the faults of anger, and he's listening very hard and going, oh yeah, I understand. But at the night when they were both sleeping in the house, a thief came into the house, and he just jumped up and started thrashing this thief, and the teacher. And he didn't have any cognizance of what he was doing until the teacher sort of touched him on the nose and said, patience, you're supposed to be being patient. And then he goes, oh yeah, and he sort of snapped out of this, this anger that he, this rage that he was in, and then, but it was already not helpful, because he'd already, even he had received all these teachings on being patient in the faults of anger. It didn't go in, it didn't help him, and he had already been angry. So then it's important for us that, this is what we have a tendency to do, is just listen to teachings about being patient in the faults of anger, and then we, step out and then start getting angry with somebody right away. So it's very important to bear this example in mind.
So Kamdu Raji Tambian Girati, Kamdu Raji Tambra, Sanjala Jos. Kendil Chas Chos Keshara, the Copandon Shidat Dung Shidana, the Kolokunjo Summa don't have the Tabiasha she, letting us say
Then that time one good thing happened was that he remembered his refuge prayer that time, though he couldn't be patient, and so when he hit the thief, he hit him once, and said, and I mean, Sangya means, I go for refuge in the Buddha, and then he hit him again, and I go for refuge in the Dharma, and then hits him again, and I go for refuge in the Sangha, and then the thief thought, oh man, and if there was a fourth refuge, I'd be dead now.
If
there was 4 refuges, I'd be a goner right now.
That is some Zako, Sabbat is some such of the condo there. The general said, Sabbat the Ranga tried to shoot in Serva. Because social never get millionaire cash, Madoke or Marwa. In the condo, the Panto is so sungi don't the Chigua, or Kotil of the Kira Sungi, that's not the condo say Shishi, Japshi Siora. In the course of no Jagan with Panto or Mara. So trying to shoot the condo to the essay. Kadina social neck, millionaire cash, Mado Yomara. In the Copanto, you don't the Kira Sungi, don't the Sungi or
So the practice of patience is not something that's helpful, really, to when you have an enemy, somebody doing you harm, and you retaliate. That's only a loss for you. That if you're pretending that, oh, I'm being patient, I know how to be patient and so forth, and do like that, then it's only you who are suffering a loss. That the person who you're retaliating to doesn't really suffer a loss at all. But by this is the problem with anger, is that it's really the loss is all yours.
To go ye meteorate sigua. Ye meteorate condu yong you saw the resera. Ye meteorate condu saying sigua junjunalia. Kalanashi Kalamabusan and condu shobut of Champichara. The ye meteorate go condu series. In the Maranzu charging Mandita, Kajan Damenda, the Legan Damenda, Kangamambu, the Samba Megi Sigora. Samba Megi actually thought she Jimason Namsa condu Sagiora. Sako Kadu Yinago, Samba Kibushita would say. Damendati, charging Mandita, Kajan Madamenda, Nalol, Mabu Yora, Coco, Chunjiro, Kanga, Sosu Samba Nashikanga, Yabuja Yongumaro. Samsala Mandiba Yungri Duba Yongyora. Or the Yundis are Dako, Junsan, Junsarako, Jahurana, Jongra, Sarami, to Jalam, the Lapsara, Yesara. Adake, Mari, you show some che. You shall go, Mado, Tadi, Yilich, and all Kungat in the Lasons, Yimidiation, and the Condose Kanga Yongora. Sakadu Yena, Nezun Damenda, Dandima de Caricona, some Jirabda Yomeja, some Kabujete, Namia Yogyo Marisuda. Chilaba Jatagness, Kaya in the two measures. Some Kadina, I will show some. Shani Ashura. The Yasamluta, Mabuja, and the Condose Congatam and the Yongdoa. Oh, the case with the
So maybe it's good to also include this, that as it says in the Bodhicharya Avatara, the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, that the food of anger is frustration sometimes is a good translation, and just unhappiness, and so then what this means is that when you have some kind of unhappiness or uneasiness or frustration with doing something, that's the time that you will get angry and hostile. So because you start just getting irritated and because things aren't going well, and well, just whenever we do something, it's just the nature of being in cyclic existence that when we set out to do something, there are always going to be like problems and difficulties, and things are going to pop up, and people are going to say things, and all this kind of irritating stuff will happen. So then we have to at that time not let ourselves get lose our cheerfulness. Okay, we have to always be maintaining a sense of cheerfulness, and so then when those kinds of problems come up, we just have to let it go, you know, and just say, oh, this is just the way things are, you know. And whenever you're going to try to do something, there was like something comes up, and you know, it's always we have expressions for this, so you just have to which I'm not going to go, but anyway, you just have to let it go and you know, and maintain always a cheerful attitude. Otherwise, when you get irritable, then you're ready to lose your temper.
지지 미지라 키란 빼두자르스도 거기 지지 시기도 아마마 시기도 하잖아. 나가서 남산 콘도 사기와라. 거기 빼 키란 빼야버려 시기도 빼 쉐부제레서 나야 보인 거였어. 어디를 지지 매셔라. 가초도 두셔지 지지 매서. 그 두자셔서나 거기 셴나 개민도 코란 칸을 라르마도 나게 누구도 거 자되게 소불라 내고 말씀을 내고 말아. 그가 두고라고 해서 소소 반내 줘나 소 내고 와라. 소소 만에는 그 가르라 메케요 말아. 돌려나 싫어. 소소 계산을 마다나. 콜라드는 케요 말아. 소소 나르들라고 되는 만들어서 소소소 동에서 위어라. 콘도체야 나르치도 그러고 삼겨라. 어디에 되고 이 가르람나 말람나 소소 샘데 가초주 두셔자면 땜보시 대토버시 고도 한다면 어디면은 아주 거슬라이바 근데 소소 대화 동에디 밀라고를 쇼사 밀라고 미지 야보레스는 오다나 야보면 야보서 두자에서 호텔 그거 두자를 타자 소소스 막금 되게요라 소소 대화 동 소소 라고 요체고라 미지 람나 말람나 개만만 두겠고라 내준 담에다 단지만지 좀나 소소 개만만 계시셈이야 아데 코에션이래 연구에서 요쇼서나 캡산도가 얘만은 아주 양상부대 소소 두고간 두고당 되라 두고지 모사리 양 두고대 양 두고대 소소 두고당 되라
So we have to always bear in mind that our happiness is in our own hands. For instance, if somebody should say, oh, they said this about you, that terrible thing they said about you, and you immediately get angry and they all have to. And then if that same person happened to say, oh no, they said they didn't say anything. Well, I mean, and then on a different occasion, then saying, oh, they said something wonderful about you, and you're really happy about what the person said. You can't give your happiness or your trouble over to somebody else. You always have to keep it in your own hand, so that whatever somebody says, whether they're saying good or bad about you, you always just keep a a stable mind. You don't let it waver your mind. So your mind is always stable, and you're always keeping a very cheerful attitude without being influenced by how others feel. And it's important to like Gunnar has said previously, that you don't give your happiness or your suffering over to others.
So
it's like that.
Kadambe lama Geshe chilia, Nico Shandazilla, Tangazo, Pasu Mambu, Jumendua, konzo teje kasakal ndo de dose sigdo as labre kadambe kishi chele da de kishi yabu temaso nizu kyanga razulu tuja labido ase ngazu kasakal ndo de dose banal madev je kasakal kyamdu dose de sugme dose labido achi che labra kera mi shesa milimeje sulichese Miki kecha di mikola shegre, Koranzu karshane shegre ese. Miki kecha di mikola oji jije mama ko shegre kayo maresara. Mi sheshi di mil maje sule ches. Keran chama maje ese re. Keran chama jebe digba yungu yore ese. Pajo di chisigda sula biora. Keran chama maje ese. Mi shesa milje. Eni ko o ngone re asam. Tangara jongre chama jebe digba mado midu asam. Tene sondi miki chisigdu se keji. Parlave di pe samcheve yin sigora. Me chason sigora. Jeza amjo di tugu ko are se nyengu. Kashele chi lapso namsa ne megi bashi degdo sera. Amjo tabu re sera amjo tabu. Shudan shi tabu. O chi je kadam be kishi chi je karla na ko cha kyamas. Amjo tugu ko are sera amjo tugu.
So there's a story in one of the this is a Gautama Geshe story where the teacher was staying in his with his students, and then one of the students, his students came to him very worried that saying, "Oh, people are saying that we're going here and there, and they were very critical of us, and the teacher then he goes, oh well, they're human beings, right? What else do they get to talk about except for other human beings, So then don't you be creating divisive speech, and so then the student understood. That I was doing something wrong by giving any kind of credence to this. What people are saying. So you just have to not let what people say penetrate, basically.
Oh yeah, that do it. Tanga jo pedere da, o pede. Chanju sembali ya tene sorne da pungda. Ani shanda tawa jinge de zola da de go chimbu da ran le kyon chimbu yong de. Ke je she me go re se sherwa. O de pedere da. Pena langbo chi mangbo wang do chebe mila kaji ge naglu tamla tu shen shen na keja dem tibe kangla de chalung ge langjin da ying so she serwa na sigora. Tendo shen ge goya madri badanse tene mi chi ko lungba shanda jendo ran koran ga lu da batinde da bajun da batinde chingni chi yoin barwa ane de ko langbuchi le tangge chi chongge chi le chele de tinge de nyamdo taro asni tene ko drone shanda chi le kan dore tene chu yone ko keje tibre kera debo imbes ta ko luda paju chosa chiorwa chosa midil tibre kera debo imbes tira kawa debre debo da pete ene de lungduwa chaba ji tangso lung manga ji yagudo langjin to phaba chin chu chin je collector son slabre ke labde da ko tange ko paju ta ralu to ko cheshi de ko kale chambchung sigresa te kale chunga se te gumar ko ha ko sare no me go bareta tele ko langji chambu to be chawa jabul tagwa cha phaba chin chu chi ta ralu de to kaskal dogurwa ye ko te ke je madina ha ko ro te na shin re sare
so there's some analogies here for what we've been talking about, and if it's a loss for somebody who's who's indifferent or doesn't have a connection to such a bodhisattva, then even more so for somebody who has actual hostility. So here, someone begged some men in charge of many elephants to look after his cattle and sheep. He was going out of town, and he thought, well, they're looking after elephants, then they can just, I'll put my cattle and sheep in with the elephants, and they can look after him. So later, when he asked the men, when he came back from where he was, if they were well, he said, oh, how are you doing? He said, oh, how can we be well? The rain and wind and all sorts of, we had a terrible storm, and there was a flood, and it carried away all the elephants. And so hearing this, he knew that the other animals, he said, well, you know, sheep and goats, and what do you have in cattle? If they're carrying away elephants, then I'm not going to even mention that. So he didn't say a thing.
Yeah,
so if you're hurting or you're harming or saying something bad about a great bodhisattva, then nothing to say about the results of that.
Oh, the Numgurdan said, the magic Trogotone, Siame Trogotone, and a meadow, she said, meadow, the chick, Mavrici, the saying, sir. Chitia Trogotone Sagiora, Tashing meadow of the dish. And this I designed, could it on the old taco, Trogoton, dear Sagdanis, Rudy Pali, Cambur of Tendeta. Numgurda Kalash and that Karajunako Sagre some Kejitim got it after Shannon de Yorko Sayatashi or Dinashi.
So there's another example of it says old men eating. It doesn't have to be old men necessarily. It's just it's the analogy of sweets fried in oil means that there's somebody who is really hungry, very hungry people, or a very hungry person, then is eating a flower. Really, here it's called the flower of the spider wisp plant. So then, if that's such a big, people are going to eat flowers, then if we give them some sweets and pastries, no, we don't have to have any doubt that they're going to eat those as well. Right? Not a problem.
That Yugbe Beshin said, Yugba. Yugba said, Yugba did this, Jobal Sigra, Joba Karjuna, the Jobal Sigra, Jobat in the Sigra, and then take on Michi Shandazin Dorane. Then I could Mitilia Kishing Jiche, Yuba Chiche, Yabushi teacher. Teacher, they call Koa, Yorwa, Papa, Koa, then they should teach Yabuchi Shaja, Koa, that Jovani, the Yabuchi culture, Kitty Yabunya Roches, Yaja. They go Shandazin do Suyone. Oh, then it can, they were in best, Yabu best. Ah, that hour, that's Zizi Mambo. Because Chimbo in the cigar. Ah, that's it to the Nyota Sugados. That it and it's it to the Shingdos of Congress, Kerang Shingdos, Zizigas. Then it goes out, Zizi Shing the Sashes and the Tanya, the court, the Chilo court, the Saddles of Shing the Sashes. They go catch a material. Ah, that Zizi Shing the Sagunada. Papa saw the Geshe Mogores and Jaco Keshe Madrid and Mermagores and
So it's another story, similar story about an analogy where a man was again going out of town, and he wanted to leave his walking stick with a friend, and he thought, oh well, I'll wrap up my walking stick with this leather bag I have, and so a very good leather bag he put around the outside. So when he went there later to ask his friend about how, he said, "How are you doing?" and everything, and said, "How could I be well? The rats have been causing so much damage here. They even ate your walking stick." And so then of course the guy didn't. Then he said, "Well, of course I'm not going to talk about ask him about the bag that that I had wrapped around it. So he never even mentioned the bag.
Oh yeah, this one.
Right.
That did it. That never Taba Comric Balani to Tangma Yugangazo, Niva. Taba Comric was Chanjusembe, Madebe, Nimit and the Shegura. That Deba Comric was Tele and Yindua. Chaga, Choban Zabala, Taba Rigba. You then tie about some Taba Chaguba Nindua. What dinner net that Ambo Chaga, Choba Zabala, Taba Kerry, Shegua.
So, in the outline on page 313, we can see where this next section is the suitability of cultivating faith or confidence or appreciation, however you prefer to think of it. Then the suitability of having faith in or appreciating in or confidence in the deeds difficult to perform, and considering their limitless qualities, such bodhisattvas, considering their limitless qualities, one should have faith in them, have confidence in them, appreciate them.
Oh yeah. Like Jawa Tamje to Sidwa, Mushi Nazaria Chanju Semba, Jawa Tamje, Ningushi, membership of the Soba to Zuyeva. They member mending, Yinako Shangi turned out to be a Cheduya. And it's Kida, Genichi, Semjet and Rutan, Tindamidalpa, Tubatri, Shangi turns a Yora. They member mending, Tenishin to Chawas, Shindu member, and it's Shara Lombasora, Kinda, Tendele, Tuku Yora, Titujet, Imbequija, and Mangbudago, Tendego, Shindu Chaka, Chobarese, Devaki Regress, Simjing Tendalia, or Tendegin Zabanzan, Tubatri. Right.
So then we'll just go right to the stanza here on page 142, 117. One who in all lives has the 5 superior knowledges appears as inferior with a nature like the inferior. This is extremely hard to do. So it's talking about it, the bodhisattva who has unusual super knowledges, unusual abilities, that they can then transform their bodies into a body of a being like a dog, or just sort of lower states of being, and appear to be like that lower stating being. Then we can have faith or appreciate the bodhisattva because it's so extremely hard to do such a feat.
Oh yeah, that did develop with that. Chanju Sembanese, Chodo Chakawan Zebes, Chodo Chakawan Zebes. Tawapang Hagbar Deba Ridi, Shanju Sembagi, Shangi Tundalia, Shindu Chaka and Zebatin de Zegiorese. This was a daily Tawa, Sheda, Conducia Papane, Hagbar to Deba Kikugre, Sungiora. Garesana, Semba Sobatoba, Kangla, Kiwa Tamjedose, Chanju Semba Sobatoba, Nason like Kimaguba. Letting Yamamong Yason like Kimaguba, Sobatop Sangi, Tezuki Esgiora. Kangla Kiwa Tamjedu, Minyambe. Mushi Nacharanga, Kawa Tamjeto, Nyamba maybe Mushi to Kanga Hakonge, Tinde Yuba Tesogesiora. Yina Simjala Pembe Cheto, Niasong and Droada, Nyawa Yuda Tundru sort of Tindeli Tributriata. Member Tinebe, Kawa member, Simbu Buddha Tindeda, Chimalevda, and then Maheda, Killa Soba, member Tabu Luigi Nobo Yonso Sunese, Kabri Simjet Tedak Tundru Tedak Lusungio, Sera, Mushi changes to detention. And so did I Kindrevine keys of which Kike Captain Keys I had the Sajeko, King because you dego Yora. A debation in Kalakabushidagi Chaka and Zabaresora. Kedante, Simjan Yonso, member Zebe Joba, the nation to Chagao. Simjan is so Keti Cap, Kalasayat to say, Tenashin, Deguade, I should ask Chicago, Kalakabo. Marazoni Chetu, Mamma, what in the Zabareti, Chanju Sembatosula Shindu, Tabaki Rigre, Tanki Rigmares.
Then the commentary says it is proper to rid oneself of animosity toward the bodhisattvas and develop strong appreciation, strong faith in them, since they do what is most difficult. And so then it describes here how difficult it is. It's a bodhisattva who has attained forbearance. Here, forbearance means that they will no longer be born into the miserable realms. So as well as the 5 kinds of super knowledge, different kinds of super knowledge, these 5 different kinds that will not decline throughout all future lives, may, in order to help sentient beings in the form of an inferior transmigrator in an unfortunate rebirth, or a bad rebirth, completely assume a body whose nature is like that of the inferior beings, such as worms, butterflies, buffalo, and dogs, with their same appearance, with their same sounds or voice that they make. And so the feat of thus maturing sentient beings is extremely hard to perform. So when you think about it, a bodhisattva appearing as a dog, right, then has to do what a dog does, eat what a dog does, and do dog activities. So imagine yourself. Sorry, man, but it's just like, I've got a dog, so then imagine the difficulty of just doing everything that a dog does. And then when you think about that, then you can say, oh, then the bodhisattva having such an incredible ability, then it is only an object of your faith and confidence.
Chigi Maubana, Kimangbola, Neba, Yeva Sine, then Dogbeche, Ki, Songashin, Osigua. Oh, the Lugudi, Garsora. Lumbachi, Jabuchi, Nijabu, call Maubana, Lumbatina, Chikanga, the say, but the Shingiora. Lumbade. Okay, the that kid was Kanga Sen, Tobutansa, Samja, Koran, Kikyo, and Zibara. Kikiwache, and a Kijlinja, and a detachment, Lumbadi Kiabudico, Chilofan to do some Shinda Colonna Duyora, Shinda Colonna Cog attend in the Usara, Cog attended. Oh, the image is Shinda Colo Cog, then the course on the Kid Trovato and the Kishan Daga Saimbara. Said, and says the only God, Kiabudi Cordil, such a Musigira. Shinda Colo de Yaputa. Oh, there's the other Condusera, that kick this Shasade. Tell Lumba de Kikanga too conscious, Kikanga against Lumba de Kikanga too conscious, loud in Misolia. Or then the Dagin Ki Kivans and Chanjus and Bachura, or the Kiddy Nico, Jabukoran de Asake, Tiwo de la Cotiwo de Litus Gauchete. I gave it oh, Kiddy dead was it. And the course and get Kiddy dead or that. That didn't you pump songs louder. And I got it and Pambares, King Ekov Kanga the Senate, I cure my banker, that you're saying, Sierra. Then the gent, kid, till louder, in the Carsore. The chick is never came out of cheese, Tundra was it. Tundra in the Tundra, this I had the car in Sacho, Mashakar, Hake Kumarco. Coagine, Cocoa, the Saris and Cosares. The Keranzo Tangens, Sungen, the Zugi, Tezuya, which is Sungur, Tagoya, Yagura. Laura. No, Tene, until of the machine, a chitty sangue, chitty suina, kitchen is you get a Chikanga say the Carres Yara. And the Keranzo me in a Michig, the witches on the Kumakus on the Michig second, Mikanga says again, Beasera. This egg Maro. And the Karina Lavre. I take you yams and the kitty meats on the meat as a share to the condora. I take on some or that is do me do some jaco kitty masera, Chikang Masera.
So to illustrate this, then there's a story about a bodhisattva. Then this is where the super knowledges come into effect. Is that the super knowledge of being able to see into the future. The bodhisattva could see that there would be this king that would make an edict to kill all the dogs, based on a dog having eaten some the leather cushions in his chariot. So anyway, so the story then. So he then made sure that he was born as a dog in that at that time in that place. So one time some dog, it wasn't this particular bodhisattva dog, but it was some dog got into this favorite chariot of the king and ate up the leather covers on the seats inside the. So then the king was so upset, and he said, "Oh, bring all the dogs here, and I'll kill them all. I'll have them all killed. Round them up and kill them." So then this bodhisattva dog very cleverly just crept in and got under the throne of the king, and the king goes, "Oh, there's that dog. Okay, there's one. That's the one that ate the leather cover here and covers of my in my horse chariot. And now that you're here, I'm not going to let you go and I'll kill you right on the spot." And then so the bodhisattva said, "If I failed to dissuade you, of course I should be punished." So the dog spoke up. So then he said, "Well, how can you do anything but fail? You ate the leather covers of my, the seat covers," and that was the king's reply. And then the rejoinder that the bodhisattva dog comes up with is, "Animals don't know what they should or shouldn't be eaten. So it looked good, something to eat. So then a dog ate it. What? How could the dog be guilty for? It's really the persons that are guilty of the people who are supposed to be taking care of your things. And what happened with your attendants taking care of the chariot?" And so, and then besides, if one ate it, then all of them didn't eat it. So if your punishment is totally unjust, what if a human did something that you were going to committed a crime that needed a capital punishment? Are you going to then go round up all the humans and kill them? This is ridiculously unfair to kill all the dogs. And the king was so moved and delighted by this amazing human words coming out of this dog, and he then totally changed, and he prevented the dogs from being harmed thereafter.
Good this was. That is the nibada. You then tie about some never showers, Tambitama de Niva, subject Niva. Chakave Choban Zabala, Thabkhe regressed on the Shagora.
Oh, yeah.
You then tie about some net Thabkhe to race, etc.
Well, so then the next example, not the next example, the next topic that we're considering under cultivating the suitability of cultivating faith in the Bodhisattva is considering their limitless qualities. One should appreciate them or have faith in them.
Taniba Yunde Tayaba some Neteba Chavanes, Thabkhe Kunzi Sonamga, Shindu Yurin Sabade, Tamze Kembe Shejaya, Mishi Tishin Shigbe Sonse. Oh, Tab many Chanju Sembla Sobata, or Tende Gikune Lande, Tu Kundise, and the Shambangi Sonam, Keva Nekeva Mangu Chachawape, Mangu Sabate Sura, Shindu Yurin Buke, Keva Mangulia, and the Shambantumne. sunamji tsoki wala buchi sakba tesi wara. Chanju semba tesu tende kiaba mangbu kale kiaba tegi kiawa ge tende drebu kande yungure kande kale kiawa sine sanje ge bede ken kawanda tende resi ge wara. Tamje kimbe sheja ya mi shi se tishin shikbe son sanje ge o sanje nyegi ya tedabe ne kande kawa chebare penyo kande yungure kiawa labchin kande sabare sine lab kawa resi sun kawa resi ore o tende penyo samye me kiaba yo resi tesu samne teba kiri resi shekdwa.
So the verse goes, the Tathagata said that the merit gathered constantly through skillful means for a very long time is immeasurable, even for the omniscient. So this is saying that the merit of such a bodhisattva, because of their incredibly vast altruistic spirit of enlightenment that they've cultivated, not just for a short time, that they've gathered the merit of this, of their method. We call it method or means or skillful means here, through for many aeons. That is so hard for somebody who's omniscient to be able to measure. So if it's hard for them, then what can we say about ourselves?
Kanderesne semjengi tondo chakawa beme do trumnebe se tanda chebane shi chakawa tinde lenji mare tangme batinde rwa beme do chakawa beme do trumnebe tabji tuikungi se tuda namba kundo kosumji tembe sonam kangase lunga yesumge ne shengi tondo ya sagbe sonam kangayin batese shindu yunrenbo keba mangboli ya tinde ane shenbengi rotin zayagi yores gora trangme sakbate namga dar taye becher kande shengi tendo kawa kande chebaresne namga nashi tasungi meba nashi ko taye barese peti shekdo ane tamje gembe sheja ya minshi sanje nyege o chanju sembagi kawa cheba tezu tangda penyo da tezu sambi mekeba tishin shekba nyegi ya 송토 구마레스 근데 송샤스거라 탐제 gembe sheja 민시 디신식베 강시 자주 추디다 셰소송소 강시 자주 추디바데 장데게서 요레서 장게 메쇼바다고 근데 디신 전주 셈바테다게 셴벤을 까와셰바테 아니 장게 최면이바 남과 나시레 소레스 거래 베데 남과레 틴로사레 틴디라 베네 코르세도스도와
So here in the commentary it says, through their ability effortlessly to accomplish difficult feats for sentient beings like the ones we're just describing, the merit created constantly by their either their activities of body, speech and mind, or their physical, verbal and mental activities, and done not just for a short period of time, but over an extremely long period of time, countless aeons. So it's said to be immeasurable even for the omniscient. In other words, it's a way of saying it's as limitless as space. And so then there's this one quote from Sutra to illustrate this, that Tathagata said, the ocean may be measured in drops. So just for and then Tibetan it only has that first line. So then here it's mentioning that for Tathagata, then even just to measure, to be measuring the ocean in according to each drop, okay, would be so difficult. It's like limitless, right? So the analogy of this there's no other analogy, just that using this quote we can understand completely about how immeasurable a bodhisattva's good qualities, their knowledge and merit is. So
Sumba Joba la Lupsula Nasjera, Tingan Joba Tarshim Bazebe Kusensidra, Joba la Lupsu Nasi, Shendun Zebe Chiches,
so then we've arrived at the fifth of the actual fifth topic in the actual mode of training in the deeds, and it's why they can complete their deeds, bring them to perfection. That means, and the first one here is well,
Joba Tarshim Banze Nube, Dachan Rusabato Joba Tendezene Tarchine, and it's Chimbe Paru to Chinsube Paru to Chikanga Paru to Togres, the Nube Kusenga Yoresgora, Mabachoba Tarshim Banze Nube Kusenlanga. Chimbala Haba Troy Kusenche, Member Chimbala Mebas, Member Chimba member, Tesula Mebas, Choba Tada Trum Neve Kusens, Chanjusim Choba Tada, attended Trum the Troop to with a Tarshimba. Ranimba, she did turn to many rituals, Chanjusimba, Soso, Tunge Tamjila Tarbachin, and Shun and Digivas, Tim Mishube Kuse, and you Ludin Cabarge, Leneve Kusenche Kusengandua. Oh, they Kusengan and the Tambuda. Chimbala Labar Troy, Kusen the Shagua, Chanju Samba to Chimbala, Labar de Neto, Kawayores, Shagua.
So this final section then is divided into 5 parts, where why they take special delight in giving or generosity, and then criticism of inferior generosity, and why they can accomplish all deeds, means bringing all the so-called perfections to perfection, and then why they do not strive just for their own happiness. Somebody's bringing up why don't they just go for their own happiness, and so it's why they don't do that, and then why they can take special physical forms. Well,
oh yeah, Chimbala Labatro Kusen Karesane. Kebe Rabla Soba, Chanju Sembala, Chimbetam Yambaran Dangi, Sutimla Soba, Teda, Mishinas, Kirap to Zunal, Sanjay Kiramanguyorva, or Kirap to Zunaliatene, Kulu Chimbataya, Shanda Chimbataya, Tendekor Mangungudu, Sutim Soala Soba, Tendekor Mangu Yungumido, the Chimbalia, Hakbar Tendenzak, Kusen Karese, Georgitoa. Did you love?
So if we look at on page 144, before the stanza, then it says the life stories of the Buddha and so forth say that talk of ethical conduct does not interest bodhisattvas to the same extent as talk of giving. So here, in fact, a lot of the life stories of the Buddha are really about generosity, and so why is it that then it's a question here that why is there such an interest for bodhisattvas in generosity?
Moya, Chimbeta Dan Sigdwa, Dan said the Jagara Kerva, Sanskrit Kerva. Bande Dako Yigrish Pasu Chan Tindishidi, Sheba Gabdusa, Jawada Chesu Timbe, Shiva Sawar Kor Chabata. Shiva said, Kuyo in Sarva, Longju Kanga, the 10 to 10 members, so Chidu Kanga, Shiva, 2 to 10 member Shiva. Tesonzako Longju in the Cochimbatana, so pay much which then Tabar's Longe and next time I go was also. Oh, Tindisi Meadow. No, she was the Sour Chigres.
That's considered Dang Dana, considered Shiva Barda?
Oh, she was said it. 미시에 요라 치와 요라 치와 되 과르시 요레세 되게 아니 니바데 가르스네 깨와다 제수 때베 시와 세월 과지바다 ren가 짐바숨게 예베 퍼진 주기 되베 최 과르지바 ren가 짐바숨게 네 가르스레 성수기 짐바 네 민지베 짐바 최지 짐바세르 되게 요라 짐바숨게 예베 퍼진 주기 되베 최과 퍼진 주기 나네 짐바데 과르시 요레세 ren가 구숨 용소 딱바르 송에 지단 되베 깨와신 주바 과르시바스 나 깨와신 상부 주바라 소바 어떤데 짐바데게 된다 망부지 고기 요레세 되네 개 침부브레 대손자 침베자데 망부 개시와시 송버레세 진설도
되네 그래서 직제데
직제 랍네 되라 치단 최단 시바시 침베자에 세시바 디지르 자주 셈발라 침베잔 따도 녀세 추하고 아치그레 최되네 심바숨 라 바로 심바 죽나니 침베지 고아치그레 시바시 깨와치마이 고아치그레세 침베자디 자주 셈발라네 따도 녀바레세 침베자에 세셔바 디지르 자주 셈발라 침베잔 따도 녀세
Well, so the word the verse says that the word giving indicates death, practice, and other existences. That is why the word giving always is of interest to bodhisattvas. So death here is talking about how there's some indication, just with the Sanskrit word dana, that there's some indication of death. Also practice means the practice of the 6 perfections, and then other existences means something to be a benefit to future lives. So here in the commentary it reads that when the Sanskrit word for giving dana is explained in terms of etymologies that repeat the syllable of the root, it means done, I guess we would have to say, it indicates dying, which is consistent with aversion, or disenchantment is another translation, or disillusionment sometimes. It sometimes indicates practices included within the 6 perfections by way of the divisions of giving. So there are 3 different divisions of giving of material things, giving of fearlessness, and the giving of the Dharma, and sometimes the attainment of desired rebirth by guarding the purity of the 3 doors. The 3 doors are body, speech, and mind. So here, so thus the word giving denotes death, practices, and other existences, and is always of interest to bodhisattvas, who therefore take a delight in giving.
Tunda karine chimbase ndi uda omanjo to jonalia chanju sembate solia chi chimbare longa ngaji roba shiro chi tero chi sarab chi lepso nasiora chidar chi cheda to samlese mali chi chimbata ro chi roba shiro chi singe chi teso nasiora chanju sembala pe kawaji yore shara nyende tajum batu kwale tarne 다 코알에 게 메고바 차섬데 다 코에 동엘에 텐도 타르소 섬데 카와치 게 요래 오 텔레잔 하고 찬주 셈발이야 란치 롱겐치 lep소나 카와치 게 요래 차라 지들 친지 제다 토섬레 계세tin 중스 도다 톰남라 시거르 슈베테 와치메나스 냐란도 저베데 타좀베 데부톰데 다 이네 코알 코르마고 차섬 섬데 카와치 용게 요라 텔레잔 하고 카와 용게 요래 차라 카레스네 다고 펜토스 질레로 고 전주 셈블 샴뱅 상마도 개요 말와 어다 데링에 펜토스지야 로바치 코스지 lep송 삼제 가지기 오래셔라 찍디레
So how is this that the bodhisattva feels in this way? And you can see this from Chandrakirti's supplement to Nagarjuna's treatise on the middle way, where he he says that the bodhisattvas take great delight in generosity. This is where when bodhisattvas, they only have others' interests in mind. They're just altruistic. Okay, they're only thinking of others. So then, if today somebody comes and says, would you please give me this, or please give me that, do this for me, or then the bodhisattva has this great feeling of joy to do that they can be generous and be helpful to others. So then at that point, it's said that the joy they feel is much greater than the joy that a Pratyeka Buddha or Shravaka would feel when somebody said, okay, now in the next moment you're going to attain the state of an arahat, completely liberating yourself from cyclic existence. How joyful that Shravaka or Pratyeka Buddha would feel at that time. Well, it's so much greater for a bodhisattva, because bodhisattvas are just only focused on helping others. So any opportunity is sort of like, well, what can I do today? So then it's just like, if somebody asks them for it, then they feel great joy.
Luching ko chewa ti sawar chi yora ti injir sam chimba asu di luching ba tan ya da tende ye ko chanju sem ba changma ma re chanju sem ba tang bu ne chimba luching ba tan sho ma ro so so me de yu gora ya ro ne paru ji le tong ba nye ngum sum do to ene so so lu de le choma da lo se do choma da lo ma do ngai sam sang ke sam ba de chan me ge cha yu sa ra ti ende ko ti che de tra chom ba to so le ti me cha ro Luye ne chigi ne chendeng chuba chuna tinga yabu chigidu ti tubu chigidu samsa samlo korgiyo mare chakde se trachumba tidi trachumba re insigora dunge sorgiyo mare ngone ran sorgiyo mare o ti ne shincheche ta luye chimba tangole ya chanada chig tinde mebe tang phewe ningdu le so ne luye chimba tangyo ra ta luye chimba tangya so ra o tine ti tangbu ne de tanggo maro chima tinde tang phewe solele na tango re sera tena shintene o shandalia tenda karsere chöji chimba sangsing ji chimba miji be chimba sigdwa sangsing chimba su nganjo saya tongya konya tozo roba chetera o tege ko mele pento yora o tene miji be chimba su ko kalere chi yoche da shido yene mengan ke so ra tende da ni kebo de timje de na ta kolom mogo ji yongya tabshi che ko shena chimbu ne tim mayo tabshi tisgora ani chöji chimba su labje je samle tol ngajo chöji chimba ta ya dera o de du kanga tanda koya ke ko minji pa se ya ta tanda koya ke dewe yoje to suda ani tendo te wa yongya chöji chimba to su chimba chidan ke chimbu de do o this
so the bodhisattva has these even will give away their bodies or parts of their bodies, the bodies really, and so this is a practice that a bodhisattva doesn't have right from the beginning of being a bodhisattva. Beginning bodhisattvas can't do like this. They have to develop a direct realization of emptiness, a direct experience of emptiness. So, but when they do reach that level that we talked about previously, where they're on the path of seeing, then at that point, then they have no feeling of this is mine. The body is, this is mine. They don't have that kind of feeling. So then if there's some opportunity where they just give away the body, it's just sort of like grabbing a piece of vegetable. That they are willing to give their bodies away. So then this is kind of practice that we're talking about here, and within generosity, then there's three different parts. So there's just the giving away of material goods like that. Then there's also the giving of fearlessness, where if somebody has been told that they having a they have a terminal illness, they're going to die, and then the bodhisattva can comfort them and free them from their fears at that time. That this is the gift of fearlessness, and then and then the third one would be the gift of the Dharma, which is kind of like a gift that would bring whoever the Bodhisattva is giving the Dharma to, or bring the recipient to a great ultimate happiness. So then you can think about how the three are sort of in that order, because of like the giving of material things is just like a short-term happiness, and then the giving of fearlessness is the gift is a little bit, the relief or happiness is great, and then the final giving is that of ultimate happiness. Do we have? Okay. We have to have like just 5 or 10 minutes at the end. Okay.
Did you do it?
Yeah, do it.
Oh yeah. That don't go. Jimbo de Keshe on the Redwa. Janju Sembako, Chimbetone, Sendile, Shanle Pemba Truth. And it gave out into Tarwa Tamja Kimbala, so a church Chimbetone, Ganga Pemba Troop to Gudwa. Near that Tabu, Ganga Chimbetone, Young to Gudwa. This was the coach Chimbachi, Every church Chimbaton had all that, there's a Ganga, Janju Sembalia, Petra de Chandale, Niamba, Chotos on the Kirap to Sunalia, Shanle Pemba to Chimbatan Shaji Mangsha, and the Tires on Gora.
The church Jimba.
La
Church Jimba?
Sansin, the church Chimbakanga, you go to Mijib Chimbasidusa. Then a nega we call Kanga, you would say, Yungudoa, Sansi Chimba Yungora. Mijib Chimbasidusa, so Shaya, the Kala Yubakanga Kanga said, Yungudo never Rapsina, she and Jibatas Yungudoa. And church Chimbasidusa go nega Labsaka Rosing Archers on Residue. Negong to Lami, the Tava Tamja Chimbakanga, till it in Yungora. So Negab don't talk to them, which is Chimbeto, Neko Yon to go to us. There's on that, yes, it's Justin Chimbati Ketchum series. Sanjay Kirab Sushi Betazuna, Chimbatayagi, next to the Mayo Res. Sudim the Shandako, the Mambo Yome, Cusenti Res. This way. Oh, yeah.
So then, amongst the. So when you look at the three kinds of generosity, then you have the generosity that sort of relieves people by giving them their short-term happiness of the by giving them their material needs, and then there's the relief from any kind of difficulties through giving them fearlessness, and then there's this the gift of the Dharma, where the Dharma is accomplishing both their temporary or temporary and ultimate goals, where you're either giving them a good rebirth in a fortunate rebirth, or you're leading them to liberation and omniscience. So as everything is included within all of these three forms of generosity or giving, then that's the reason why, and that's the reason why you see so amongst the 34 birth stories of the Buddha, which means when the Buddha was a bodhisattva, that you see amongst those mostly stories that concern generosity and giving. And so then And that's why when a bodhisattva hears about the word giving, then they take a special interest. It's always of interest, as it says here, take a special delight in giving.
Oh yeah, Thabkhe derida. Pena janju sembala chimba sibe chero senge robo chero senge chungsona. Nyambo yong kawa kandi tobe pedelia. Pena sebar chawa nyebale tarwe tamte baje. Nichi se ko ta che sarche. O ta masaya che ta jiwen tani yese. Jiwen tani sikdo mesi chimba ta sirwa. O ta kiran se mare taren meb chesona kawa kigro. O ti toba na shiri shara.
So the example is just like a condemned person. If they're going to be receiving a death penalty, then they heard that they're going to be spared. But then imagine how delighted and relieved such a person would be. But it's just like that. That's the way the bodhisattvas feel, when the kind of joy they feel when they have an opportunity to be generous.
Oh yeah, that and the de niba derida. Taginde choba tarshimba zenube kusen de langane chimbala lagba to kusen tande derwa. Da membe chimbala meba sedera nibate membe chimbala meba sa. Niba membe chimbala meba ne chanju sembe chimba kona taye Yeshe ne mayino se. Chanju semba chimba kona de sonam taye bada tinde rese. Shenda ngarazo soso geola soba tinde chimba karsore. So here,
we're talking about how the bodhisattvas, again in the outline you can see that we're talking about how the bodhisattvas can complete their deeds, can bring their deeds to perfection, and here is the criticism of inferior generosity is that the bodhisattvas it's talking about how there is this feeling of that a bodhisattva's generosity is so they're so joyful that to practice this, but then why is it that there's this other the idea of that the same idea about the generosity that where they're through giving gifts, then you'll have all the resources you need in your next lifetime.
That's how I'm Dirchimba Chimbalaese. There are Dirchimba Chimbalaese. Sendele Chimba la 10 years ago. And then Kiwachiman Debu Chimbo Lonjo Chimbo Yongre Samne. Oh, Tinde Samlutane. And it Chimbataya Tata Tindetisura, Lenda Yonsotone. Songbo Shindu Meban Yurse. Songba Nanshin Cheko, maybe Chimbaresura. And then Aranzo Chida Society to Nazuchimbatandi. Kiwachima Lonjo Yimebon Bechedu Chimbatango, some Giora. Bechedu Chimbatangiora. Kiwan de Tawang and Stangas Kizlapsaiba. Kiwachima Seko, Nemelasova, Mepumbe Tikunet, and the Chimbatango Sierra. Tangaranzo, Kibuchunguda, the Zuchibatan doing that Zutit and the Chimbatangiora. A change about it and that Chimbatangio Maris. This song young nation, maybe Chimbares.
So the verse reads, when one thinks that by giving gifts now, there will be a great result. Receiving and giving are like trade for profit, which will be criticized. So the Bodhisattva, we were talking earlier about how through giving one gets resources. So we're oriented towards thinking that through being generous, then we'll be ensured that we'll have a place, everything that we need in our next lifetime, a place to stay, and resources, and a good body, and so forth. That everything that we'll need in our next lifetime. But a bodhisattva, when we talk about the generosity of a bodhisattva, they don't have that consideration at all. In fact, they feel that that's kind of not very good, or what do you say? It's inferior kind of generosity, because it's like receiving and giving in that way, or like trade for profit.
Oh yeah, da. Senderi chimba ye chimba la drebu longju chimbu jong giro se senderi chimba ta ne kyo chimba longju chimbu jong gure samne chimba ane ze pa shendal de bata lemba te zo de ane yong so tong ane ke che do ze tong ye chongbo shin do meba so so le kepsan yong ye che do ane ze pa chimba tang ge yo re se de mebe chimba re se go ra changju semba chimba tang de shen le pemba ba shi ma do ngal mao ba ne chi yong gure sam te sam le tang ge yo ma ro tanda pemba kar do sam pendom ba shi ma do mao ba le ran longju yong ma yong sam le ko tang ge yo ma ro o de mebe chimba re se pena de kyo chimba ran longju chimba yong gure sam ne chimba tang ye na shen le pemba ba shi sam le ma do meba meba che so so mao ba ne longju chimba yong gure sam chimba tang ye na ane pena yoje tam je zong be pe de le ya 총바 나시레스 총바 나시 총바디 잘라 망부 요르바 어디 강가 밀 파테 요라 제 잘라 망부는 강바 강가 매버 소샤그라 얘네 코 가르젠테 그래서 코 캡산레 페샤 술레니야 텔레 라가지 소해 ton달 치기 요라 어디 총바 나시레스 요라 지단 코 침바도 할때 롱주 중고 마레 송고 마레 침바도 롱주 데부도 용그라 얘네 티 삼로타니 침바도 요 마레 셴레 펜바 바시 토네 침바도 고레스 티 ton달로 chanju semba
So the commentary says to receive and give away things, thinking that giving gifts in this life will result in great prosperity is like trade for profit and will therefore be criticized by the excellent. That means by the Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva has this thought of only being helpful to others. That's their thought is only like that. They never think of, well, if I do this, it'll help me. It'll turn out like this for me. No, they're never even thinking like that. So then they consider that such kind of giving as being subject to criticism. So then it is like the profit from selling all one's goods. So when a merchant sells all his goods, he makes a profit, but no merit. So then the idea is that this merchant is just emptying his warehouse completely, and which sounds great, but he's only getting all this profit. So that's
다디 숨바디를 당하죠. 숨바디 숨바 그러와 숨바 쮸바 탑다 좀데 주세 단데 담마데가 요바 내나네 멤베 심벌라 매바스도서 나 쮸바 탑다 좀데 주세 와 쮸바 탑다 좀데 주세세더라 그래서 숨바 쮸바 탑다 좀데 주세네 강라 나르체 딕바야 예니 예바 마옌바 기벨레젠 텔라네 좀미시자 예마예세 chanju semba sunam thaya ba sabe chanju semba kangla sigora ngar chebe ne tiba chungse ja yoba ni mimba ta sura ane kangla ngar che tiba ya yoni ma yimba sa yoba ni jan debu jene ba ma yimba se sardo yoni yoba ma yimba kevele jen telane tumi she ja yoma ya o kewan ba shi shenben ba shi ke salmo do menge chanju semba telia ane kewa shenben ke chawa de trup to mare se yo mare tamje trum ne yo re song do
so then we're on this third part of the why they can complete the deeds, and this is the reason why they can accomplish all deeds. And so then for such a one, we're talking about a bodhisattva who has such measureless merit. This bodhisattva is a very highly advanced bodhisattva. Then, for such a one, even previously performed ill deeds will have no effect. There is nothing one with virtue considers should not be accomplished. So that means that a bodhisattva, such a bodhisattva, there's nothing that they cannot. They have a feeling there's nothing that I can't accomplish.
Oh yeah, that is the matter. Sonam Tayaba Sobe, Chanju Semba Kangla, Ngar Jebe, Tigbayan, Chunse Yoba Nijan, Drebun Genius Yoba Mayimba, Chigedus, Lenza, Sange Chuni, Nyongushi, Rugur Nuji, Kange Lumi, the Sedwa, Lenza Sandavichi, Chunse, Chu Kangata, Kamzu Chambu, Sagusoto Maresora, Chunyuji, Sagusu Vilmado. Lenza Sange Chuni, Nyongushi, Rugur Nuji, Kange Lumida. 차유가 소토 그래 주강가다 겸주도 소토 말했습니다. 대신 특별히 중국양 계획 자와 양밖에 장주 선발을 따가듯이 특별히 중국 연안 대부 남미미도 같은데 이거 계획에 배신도 짜신부 양바와 된데 임바데 셰바체고 그래서 그도.
So
이거 디냠도 로샤나 디메도 제 송바다르세 Topdan Dembe Kewe Legend Chanju Sembatella Nesigdwa. And Shandun Druba me, she chawa yoba maibe. Shandun de Trupto Maris, your Maris Gora. Simjan get to enter the Truber and Jurose. Bennett Susu Chabada, Pete Yege, Sadege, Chuyung Sechimado, Kanga Jurtu Marese. Chanju Sembatula, Kewa, Miguel Chunjumado, Kewa, and Lopcham Seme by your race. Yes, you do.
So, though. If we read the commentary here, though bodhisattvas who create limitless merit, okay, we're talking about these bodhisattvas, such a one, it means bodhisattvas who create limitless merit, may even have performed a few ill deeds previously, these will not be able to produce an effect. So there's a verse here, it is said, a few grams of salt can change the taste of a little water, but not of the Ganges, not a huge body of water like the Ganges. Understand, the Ganges River that is, understand it is likewise with the small ill deeds and expansive roots of virtue. So the Bodhisattva has this huge amount of virtue, and so just a few ill deeds are not going to be able to take effect. So there's nothing that bodhisattvas whose virtuous activity is powerful, there's nothing that they consider should not be done for others' benefit. They can do whatever they want for the benefit of others. They have only others' benefit in mind. They therefore fulfill all the needs of sentient beings. And then the analogy is just this, as stated before, about the grams of salt in the Ganges.
So now
we're on the fourth.
Ranim Bashi, she did turn to many vectors. Chanju Sembagi, Ranchik when the Tarbatomne shoot and the Digravati, many Caresura, to San Caresura. Oh, Chansen Pagba Nam Chikdo Geshe, Lanyu Wangi, Quar Megan answer, Chanju Sembanam Kawajan Jasagduase. Let a Yamabang around Meba Kwa give it in the Mindu Asagura. And that and I call a nanny, Ninja Malam Gwangi call a nanny, Shangi turned from the call a net they go today. So she was Tarbatobje Amadene. Mashu nene call it and there call about a yamdo neque carres gora. Shena Shivayin so number Mijubachi Shena. Labjin Yeshe Telane, dinner never yomaye. Labchin Bucas and Jusen Bechuba Labchin Boam, Tende Zabadan Dembe Yeshe Telanesigora. Yashen Bashi to a Labjin Yid and Dembe Chanjusen Batelanesigora. Dinner never yomaye this. Call a nail, call about the Yamdol Hedge to Nene, and a call bet Susan the Shuba Delaya, call a echo, mix egg never can you my rescuer. Coe to make it. Dinner never you mean this. Dinner de la Siba than Yang de la Caber Mese, Chanju Sambatella Siba call a never, Yang de Tarba never Nidelia, she were you my Caber you my rescuer. What do you love, Danny?
So here the question is, the topic is, why do they not strive just for their own happiness? The questioner then says, since exalted bodhisattvas or noble bodhisattvas or superior bodhisattvas are entirely virtuous and do not take birth in cyclic existence through the force of contaminated karma here, contaminated actions, contaminated karmic actions, and disturbing attitudes, just means the afflictions. Why do they not remain absorbed in the sphere of peace? Why aren't they just liberated from cyclical existence and just being absorbed in their individual experience of peacefulness? Then so even here, nothing harms one. It means here in cyclical existence, nothing harms one with a powerful mind, and thus for such a one, worldly existence and nirvana are no different. Here we're talking about one with a powerful mind is somebody who has they have a very it's like they're very effective is another way of translating that, effective mind. And thus for such a one, worldly existence and nirvana are no different.
그래서 어디 데발로기다. 전주 선발 학배 삼바 럽친비 예전들은 럽친 예전식도 학배 삼바도 심제 탐제 동에도 저와 나게 자워서 랑게 쿠르드케네. 저로 제나 삼사대 멤버 나랑 같이 네버 시기 삼지고 배술 중기하러 학삼 전주 선발 학배 삼바 럽친비 예전들라니 대바 중세자 메시지스 미케와 le chungse ge chi yo ma re sha ro khor ne ja sibe nyebe me khor ne ba yena kho ba de sun da shi kho ye kyang gi ene gu ge yo ma re sha ra ma gu be kho an de na ne ba yo ba min de kho le ne ba yena ya kong le ya de ne ji tung ye da nyom ba da tin de ne ba chu ne ba che to yo ma re so ra de na de la sibar ne ba da nyang le de ba shu ba la ne ba me ba ke me be siba kho le ne na ra nyang le de ba shu le ne ra 동에 올라서 봐다 녀 올라서 봤는데 콜레 네바 메바데 치바레스 거라 네바 메베 시왈라 학반 메토스 코 네바텔레 타르발이야 학바르도 어가 동에기 트레인 네바텔레 가 학바르도 끼와케 요 마레스 거라 어 페나 부치반 나와 마 림두치반 메주아시 페테 부치마도 맹겐게 아마데 소시 부텔레 로바체 단나산에 준네 로바체 레가체리아코 칼레카나 요마레 카베토네 지그마도 코 다티 칼레카보도 섬틀레 지요 마로 어디네시 코알네네 심제 퇴체발이야 같이 퇴체토나 카베 삼바치고마도 다딩가 칼레도 섬선 땡기 요마라 어디레
So bodhisattvas whose minds hold a powerful special wish. This is referring to wholehearted resolve or high resolve, or there's different translations for this, but it's that's attitude that a bodhisattva feels, I will take all this on myself, that they have this kind of feeling of a universal responsibility, just a kind of strong feeling of, I can do this, liberating all beings from their suffering myself, and they do whatever they can to help all beings be freed from their suffering. So they, with that kind of an attitude, then and who do not even have and do not create even the slightest ill deed through remaining in cyclic existence, are not tainted by its faults. This bodhisattva at this level then is not able to create even the slightest ill deed in cyclic existence. So since even in cyclic existence nothing harms them, they're not subject to the afflictions or to anything, their karma. So then there's no difference in terms of harm whether they remain in worldly existence or enter nirvana. Thus they do not prefer one kind of peace to another. It's like the following analogy. A mother does not feel discouraged caring for her only child who is ill. So this is a mother who's got an only child, that the child is very sick, so whatever difficulties they undergo for that child, they're only pleased to undergo. They don't feel undergo those difficulties. They don't feel that it's any hardship to them at all. There's still time. Yeah.
2 minutes.
2 minutes? 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Karma sum.
What do you
So we have time for the questions. So we have 2 questions here. First question is, how does merit actually function as one of the causes for bodhicitta and the direct realization of emptiness? What is its relationship to the mind? So then the Sunam Gitsok Andres Janchuk Sem Keala Dang Damidobe Sherap Ngunsum to Dongbani Ngunsum to Dopa Doyala Kandres Pendopa de Kandre like a Karikari Jagid then did Sunam did because Sunam did Semgi Dralva Karyo de did Kandres Semdan Dralva Yode.
Order. This is doing as a casore. Yalatin Basic as a Saxon net over Yalatin Basic.
Well,
When the chat seller, Choju Sanjay the charges and Basamatamjela, Kusheption is chat seller says you are. Chobapuya, Sosu Nelu, Long Judah, Sosu Long, Lunga Yusum Sama, Ya Chobapuera. Chazo Chuji, Shakbachia, Toma Mevane, Tandabado Sashabe, Tipo Samatamjela Shakbachidua. Jesu Yera, Shandagi Kawakarasa, Yanaya, Chochun should be Sanjay the Chanju Simba Susi Kawakarasa, the Tamjela Pay over some Jesu Yeransiora. Patience in Sanjay. Chulmasum be shooting get to the Choju Sanjay Kazir, Gangal Chosun Rona Cheje, Kumachigdo. So on this church on the Shube Sanjay, young Ellen, there go some Kongshun get to the young Mandavache, Chosun Shurona Sigdoa. So what in there to some Lutan Saksan Sigdoa. Kiwa Mambus, so Mambusagiora, and the Tiba Mambusanguiora. Another Kiwa Toma and Tiba Konda Shudera. Indico Tiba Mambuji da, Kiwasana Mambuji Sasona, and the Chanju same die, Tombani the Tindecom and Yowaki Yongiora. Same the Saharun Rudoa. Same the Shingat Masunoko, Sada daughters and Babas Yabusonet and Yabukigra. What didn't she same the Sambuchagiora? What the Indian Tobaki Alco Nura Yongiora. Another Diba Kiwatoma Menasa, but Diba Cheddar. Chebacheda should go Chicomna, Yoba Toba Kigi or Mara. Tiki Dundaliani, Yala Dumbala Soba, Tindek on the Sunam Mambusa Yora, Tiba Mambuda Yora, or Tiba Nurja Suna Mambusa Sona, and the Chamba com Nijicom Tezucom Lavada, Gavaketa Yora. Mondira. Some Chibaro, some Deco, Tibacha, Kiwatu, the same Dendo Pachasha, some Basar Chinswa. Some Giton and you and the Kiku Yora. So Condevando, so some Tangi, so some Jimmy, some Tangiora.
So then, when we, there's the 7, the 7 branches of worship, sometimes translated as that, but it's prefaced by that all the keys of purification and accumulation, means accumulation of merit, are all included within those 7 branches of worship, where you're bowing down, making offerings, and confessing any kind of wrongdoing or any kind of negativity, and then if you're then what do you say, rejoicing or admiring the virtue of others and yourself and others, and then in addition to that, then you're what do you say, entreating the Buddhas to stay and to teach, then you're supplicating them to have to stay, to stay for a long time, and then dedication, and all those 7. If we do those, what happens is that through doing those in relationship to the Buddhas, then what happens is our mind becomes very, what is that? It becomes, well, for lack of a better word, virtuous. It becomes good. You know, it sort of increases the goodness of your mind. An example would be if you're going to plant something in your garden and you want to actually anything to grow, then it would be a good idea to make sure that the soil is very fertile. Whereas, so if you're just only so then if instead you're only just doing things that are harmful to others, destructive deeds, and all sorts of creating all sorts of negativity, bodhicitta and the realization of emptiness are just not going to be able to be generated in that kind of a medium. But if through these 7 branches of worship you're making your mind a fertile soil, then bodhicitta and the realization of emptiness will be able to will generate in that kind of a medium. So there's a longer question. Why is ultimate bodhicitta, a wisdom consciousness, called bodhicitta? Are all Arya Bodhisattva wisdom consciousnesses ultimate bodhicitta? In what context do we use this term? For example, I don't recall hearing it when we're talking about wisdom minds from the philosophical view, point of view. So, Dundam Jantrip Kisam Kikorla, the Shirap ki Sheba de Gariana de Semke Sigyo de Semke and the young de says Jantrip Samba Dundam Jantrip ki Samba ki Shirap Ganga Dundam Semke Se Choge de Bay, the young Kadu Dundam Jantrip Kisem Ming di Kadu Beche Dango de Dawa Gorla Kecha Jedu di Gomanyong de Kadu Kap Gagila Dundam Jantrip Kisem Sigire.
Oh, question. Dundam Janju Kisem Siduzako, Dundamba Tongba Nera.
Right.
What they Musum do Toba Sonza, Dundamba. Dundamba Janju Kisem Sido, Dundam Sem Jessido.
Right.
Oh, they go Kapkabliako, Dundam Sem Jesha, and go to Kapgala Tomba Musum do Toga, she say Yungura.
Right.
They could dig up in Dundam Sem Jess and dig up the Source Inji, Nobachan Kayomara.
Right.
Dundamba Sem Jesse, Chidanko Tap and Shirab Niora.
Right.
Tabginani Yakshude, Geshe Shude, Chanju Semdero.
Right.
Shiragunane, Geshe Shude, Tombani Tobatero.
Right.
So Tombani Sum to talk about Chanju Sem Nibudige, and ya Kone Kondo Peolatene, Sankia Guyora, Chanju Top Guyora.
Right.
Lami Chanju Top Guyora.
Right.
So Lami Chanju Top Jigi, you saw the Nibuti Redwa Keshe.
Right.
Kunzup Chanju Sem, Dundam Chanju Sem Siming Dagdwa.
Right.
Dundamba Togwe, Chane, Chanju Linyawa. Kunzup Sanji, Koban Toban Deve Sani Chanju Linyawar Chibe. Sem Citizen Sem Chanju Semi and Semi Angora.
Right.
Dundam Chanju Sem says no Semi Angora.
Right.
Simju does let Dundam Chanju Sem Sigmara.
Right.
Tombani Musum the Tobayina.
Right.
Pene Chanju Sem said there. Kunzup Chanju Sem Yamdo. simju yorwa simju dozole kunzu chanju ge sem chanju sem sigmarwa chanju semine sem simju nignan sem yengora simju dozole segmedwa oh yeah.
So when we talk about ultimate bodhicitta, then ultimate bodhicitta, the term ultimate here is given because it's talking. Ultimate means emptiness, so it's talking about the direct realization of emptiness. So so in that sense, why we use the word ultimate bodhicitta. Ultimate, the two bodhicittas are paired in. In order to attain enlightenment, awakening, we have to have these two minds of awakening. So we'll talk about method and wisdom as the causes for that. We have to have those two, method and wisdom, and so within wisdom, then we have this ultimate bodhicitta, which is the direct realization of emptiness, and then within the method we talk about conventional bodhicitta. Here we don't use it. It's really, I mean, sometimes there's really no rules as to when we say ultimate bodhicitta or when we say direct realization of emptiness. Sometimes it's said in that way, and sometimes we use the one phrase, or sometimes we use the other phrase. So there's no real rules for that.
So chit said sem sigara. Chit 6 sigara.
So then it's important to keep in mind that with these terms, either conventional bodhicitta or ultimate bodhicitta, are talking about the mind, the primary mind. It's not talking about mental processes or mental factors. And so we don't use these terms in reference to any mental factors. It's the primary mind that's being referred to as either ultimate bodhicitta or conventional bodhicitta. Thabkhe, Abbey, Kasa Dundan Jantripki Samde Thabkhe, Abbey, Thabkhe, Sena de Sam Petra, Korjana de Gunzob Jantripki Samare,
Janju Samarwa. Thabkhe de Sechorwa, Thabkhe Injimi Janju Sam. Kunzu chanju semje yengu marwa. Nyendo je semje ba, rangye je semje ba, tekba chembe semje ba sigdwa. Ko nyendo yene nyendo je tarwa toba chego yosane, nyendo je semje ba sigdwa. Tekba chembe yene ko semje tamje do sanje ko ban toba chago yosan semje sona, tekba chembe semje ba sigdwa. Sem sido ko samlo zowa dil sigdwa. Sem sido semda semjungrwa. Chit sido semrwa, chit sik sido semjungrwa. Semda mado sigmarwa. Ti nyamdo shirabta jambata tinde yorte ti chanju sem sigmarwa. Shagmarwa.
So when it's really mind generation, this is maybe where translation is getting in the way, because there's no real reason. I asked the question. Well, it's not really bodhicitta. I think the questioner is thinking, well, is this really bodhicitta, the ultimate bodhicitta? Well, actually, it's called ultimate mind generation. So there's many different kinds of mind generation, and there's mind generation for somebody who's a Shravaka, somebody who's a Pratyeka Buddha, they have mind generation, and this is Mahayana mind generation, and so then it can be considered either ultimate or conventional, like that.
That's what.
Well,
Oh yeah.
maybe that's good.